Now, Freddie, can you see what an awful consequence a lie has? You see what happened to a little 3-year-old boy? Do you realize that... And just think of it this way. When you told everybody that your daddy let go, and that it probably had an effect on Daddy too, because he knew he hadn't let go. If somebody told such a lie on you, is it quite possible that if there was no way for you to disprove that lie, that you'd be such a heartbroken man about your own child that you might take a drink occasionally and say, how do I solve this? What do I do about my boy that lied about me? And it make me thought in the family that I did this. Don't you think that a little 3-year-old boy has a conscience too, and that he had to protect his conscience so he didn't want to see the results of his crime?
Yes, sir.
Do you realize that what you really did was to give yourself blindness so that you wouldn't have to see the effects of what you felt you were responsible for? You did feel you were responsible for some of those actions, didn't you, Fred?
Yes, sir.
So you didn't want to look at the results, did you?
Not particularly.
You didn't want to see those results. Freddie, you know that happened a long, long time ago. You can't hold a person guilty all their lifetime. I don't think God operates that way. He doesn't make you suffer forever for what you did. Don't you think you've had enough suffering for that childish little lie that you told?
Yes, sir.
Because in your mind, subconsciously buried deep, and the thing that has probably made you a nail biter and everything else is the fact that you caused a great deal of damage to your dad when you told that lie about him. And that every time he took a drink, the reason you resented it so much was that you felt that you were part of that reason for his drinking. Am I right?
Quite possible.
Am I right?
Yes.
So you see, a little lie can go a long way. And a little injury, you maybe only thought it was a little lie at the time, but as you realize the gravity of that thing, can you see why you didn't want to relive it again? Can you see why you would block that out of your mind? You do understand.
Well, actually, the actual reason for telling it was that my brother was only a year old and he was drawing more attention than I was. And I just couldn't take that, so that brought that about.
Oh, I see. So now we get to the actual cause of the thing was your jealousy of your brother. So you felt that sort of justified the resentment that you had because he was getting all the attention and you were getting so little.
Yes, sir.
Now, Freddie, this is the first time that you've ever realized this, isn't it? In your adult years. Have you ever, or have you subconsciously realized this thing all your life?
No, I'd rather have forgotten about it and left it there.
You would rather have left it there than for it to be raked up?
Well, I mean, I never thought about it.
But if you really thought about it, back in your subconscious mind, you knew that what you're telling us now was the truth about this incident.
Yes, sir, it probably would come out.
Now that it's come out, you punished yourself. How old are you, Fred?
23.
23. So you've been punishing yourself for 20 years. Have you ever looked at your nails and seen how you bite them and everything else?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever know why you bit them?
Nervousness?
Sure, not nervousness at all. A guilt complex, Fred, that's all. Just a guilt complex. Just the subconscious mind saying, Freddie, you didn't do right when you were 3 years old. You didn't do right. That's all it was saying. Did you ever hear that little still voice called conscience? You know, there's a scientific basis on that, Freddie, don't you?
Yes, sir.
That's so scientific, in fact, that you see it operating right in your case. Don't you think your conscience has made you suffer enough? Don't you think that now you can really say to yourself, well, the thing is out in the open now. There isn't anything I don't have to see. Now I want to see like a normal man should see. I don't have to bite my nails anymore because now I know why I've been biting these nails and why I've been refusing to see. Isn't that what you've been doing, Fred? Really? Every time an emotional thing comes along, you want to close your eyes off from the world, don't you?
Yes, sir.
And you don't want to see the results of the emotions, and yet it isn't the exact emotion at the time, but what you're going back to is the 3-year-old emotion that you knew was a very bad one. And what you're seeing at work is a habit pattern. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
May I suggest something for you? I think that your doctor will agree. I think that what he needs more than anything else is treatment of a very excellent psychiatrist to get this guilt feeling out of him. The one thing that I'm doing today will remove it. Yes, will remove it in large measure. But additional psychotherapy is indicated, and I'm not in a position to give him the additional help that he needs. We've gotten to the cause of the trouble, and it's a very good cause, believe me. That kid has suffered enough, and there's no need of him suffering anymore. God wouldn't have punished him that much. I mean, God wouldn't intentionally reach down. I don't think we've got a cruel God like that. He's punished himself worse than anybody could ever punish. Remember, he has resented his dad, when in reality, probably at the bottom of his heart, he's been loving his dad all those years, and changing that love to hate, trying to rationalize his feelings towards his dad. Now, I can be wrong and certain of the assertions because maybe this is an oversimplification of the case, but I've seen so many cases of this nature that I'd almost gamble that in his desire to justify the thing he did as a little 3-year-old, when in resentment against the attention his brother was getting, he told this lie about his dad. He's had to justify the dislike of his dad in his own heart, and that's why he didn't want to see. He wanted to believe blindly that he disliked his dad. Is your dad still living?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you make up to your dad?
I haven't had a fight with him in the last 5 years.
Why don't you go back to your dad and tell him that now you know, as a child, how you wronged him. And do you know, maybe he won't drink anymore? I can't promise you that. But if he saw that his boy came back to him and said, Dad, I want to right the wrong that I did as a little child to you, and I want to love you like a boy should love his dad, he may find the cause for his drinking right in there. Do you remember you saying to me that you had never seen him intoxicated before that accident?
Yes, sir.
But could you understand? I think if my boy lied about me like that, I don't know but what I might take a drink occasionally myself, wondering how I could solve the thing, how I could... Remember, he has never learned how to... learned about human behavior. He's never learned how to justify that lie in you. But if you went back to him and said, Dad, I want to make a clean breast of something I did as a kid, and I want you to forgive me for it, you might find that all the love that you should have had for him all these years will come back very strong, and you'll find what a good man he is instead of the bad man that you have tried to manufacture in your mind. Can't you see that?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to go back to him and sort of say, look, Dad, I wronged you when I was 3 years old, and I think it would do me a lot of good to get this off my mind and out of my mind so that I don't have to be afraid to see things in this world?
If I were absolutely sure that's all it was.
Well, Fred, look, I don't want you to do anything you don't want to do. Do you want to get well?
Yes, sir.
You know, sometimes you have to use 3 or 4 different kinds of medicine to get well. And one of the finest kinds of medicine is cleaning out the dark places in your mind. You know that too, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't you like to clean out that miserable place in your mind? Where you lied to yourself like that? You would like to clean it out so far as he's concerned, so that you know that he can understand why you manufactured this resentment over the years and so on. Because you may have had justifiable cause for certain of the resentment. But not all of it. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
What do you think? Don't you think it might be a good idea to try a little bit of this medicine and see whether that doesn't help a lot? How do you feel about it? Would it be tough to do?
Well, personally, I think it would be for me.
Why? Why would it be tough?
Since a long time ago, and
Sure it is. Sure it is. Sure it is. Would you rather go around every time an emotional upset occurs, you lose your vision, or a good part of your vision?
I don't think I'll be emotionally upset anymore now that it's dulled. I can adjust myself to the other way of thinking, give the other guy a break.
All right, now look. Since you know that's so, why don't you give your dad a break? Don't you think the other fellow's entitled to a break once in a while?
Yes, sir.
Give him a break, too. You're giving yourself a break. You're being given a break today. You may not know it, but this might have taken years and years of psychiatric work. What if we brought it out in just a little short time? We brought it out because it was right at the top of your subconscious, aching to get out. Aching to get out. So why not get it out completely? Get it out 100% so that it doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't even have to exist in your own imagination about how you build up this thing in your mind. Don't you think you ought to give him a break now, after all? Are you a daddy, Pat?
No, sir.
Well, a dad can love, just as much as a mother can love. We love our kids. And if we get on the wrong footing with them, it hurts us terribly. Give the guy a break. Just like you would want to be given a break. Now, when I bring you out of this relaxed state, Fred, I'm going to talk to your doctor afterwards about seeing that you get good psychiatric care. I know a lot of good psychiatrists that have had my training in this particular field of work, and I would like to recommend one or more of them. Let your doctor take his choice of those men to see that all of this is cleaned out of your mind, and you'll probably find that you won't bite your nails anymore. That you won't have this impulse not to see anything when things go wrong, and your vision will probably stay at its normal at all times. You'd like that, wouldn't you?
Yes, sir.
I was saying a while ago that not every hypnoanalysis is easy, and certainly the one you just heard was not an easy hypnoanalysis. On the other hand, not every hypnoanalysis is successful. But I do want you to hear what I believe is an interesting failure. The case was one in which a man had suffered from conjunctivitis, that is, redness of the eyes, for 11 years. Traced back, the redness seems to have occurred at the time of a premature delivery, which resulted in the death of the firstborn. There had been a great emotional stress in the family. We couldn't find the cause of the conjunctivitis, but it seemed to me that it was crying below the level of consciousness. In many cases of asthma, bronchitis, conjunctivitis, and other ailments in which the nasal passages, the throat, and the eyes are affected, it has seemed to me over the years that all of these cases reflect a crying below the level of consciousness. A time of great emotion comes along. There is tearing, much tearing, convulsive sobbing. Outwardly, the sobbing stops. It stops at consciousness, but it continues below the level of consciousness. And in tracking back these asthma, these bronchitis cases, and these conjunctivitis cases, it always seems that you find that the crying has not stopped.